Good morning, Vine family. It's good to be here with you this morning. If you'll stand with us, we'll begin our worship together. We worship the God. We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We sing to the God. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung upon that cross, then He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place, and we won't be quiet. We can shout out your praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. And we are the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, but now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today, and we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in His place, and we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. Wasn't holding you up, so there's nothing I could do to let you down. It doesn't take a trophy to make you proud. I'll never be more loved than I am right now.
Hear your voice carried in the rhythm of the wind to call me
on the mountaintop, I can see so clear what it's all about. So stay here by my side till the sun goes down. Don't wanna forget how I feel right now. Jireh, Jireh, you are enough. Jireh, you are enough. So I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. Forever enough, always enough, more than enough. Forever enough, always enough, more than enough.
I'm already chosen. I know who I am. I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I could imagine. That is enough. I'm already
I'm already chosen. I know who I am. I know what you've spoken. I'm already loved more than I can imagine. And that is enough. I'm already loved. I'm already chosen. I know who I am. Know what you've spoken. I'm already loved. You are Jireh. You are enough. Jireh, you are enough. And I will be content in every circumstance. You are Jireh, you are enough. If he dresses the lilies,
If he dresses the lilies with beauty and splendor, how much more will he clothe you? How much more will he clothe you? If he watches over every sparrow, how much more does he love you? How much more does he love you?
I'm thankful that we serve a God who's more than enough this morning. No matter where it is that we find ourselves, where we've been, where we're going to end up, He's more than enough, and He's more than we could ever need. There's nothing else like Jesus. Amen. I'm caught up in your presence. I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where it started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm caught up in your presence. And I just want to sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never want to leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. I just want you. Nothing else. And nothing else. Nothing else will do. I just want you. And nothing else. Nothing else. Oh, Jesus. Nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else. There's nothing else. And nothing else will do. Make this your prayer. I just want you. Nothing else. Oh, and nothing else. Oh, Jesus. Nothing else will do. Caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything. And more than anything that you can do, I just want you. Sing nothing else. Oh, I just want you. Nothing else. Nothing else, oh, nothing else will do. I just want you. Nothing else, oh Jesus, nothing else will do. I just want you. Lord Jesus, we thank you this morning, God, that there's nothing else in this world that could ever satisfy. And Jesus, that it's not about what you could do for us this morning, Father, but it is what we can do for you, and it is just for the time and the moment in your presence. So we thank you for that this morning. God, I pray that as Pastor Mike comes, that you would bless the reading and teaching of your word, and God, that you would just be with us this morning. In Jesus' name.
All right, have a seat, please. They're going to come around and take up an offering. Pray you give in a way that be pleasing to the Lord. A couple of announcements, or just one announcement as we're getting started today. If you're a Flipside parent, that's all the student ministries. There's going to be an online Zoom meeting tonight, 8 o'clock. We're going to talk through some things that are changing and growing when it comes to student ministry. I would love to see you online tonight. Okay? You down? All right? You down? In the back there? Gotcha. All right, let's jump in. How's everybody doing? I took a little COVID vacation. It's good to be back. Good to be back. How's everybody else doing? You took a COVID vacation too? I got it. All right, that's good. Some COVID vacations in the house. All right, this is me pre-COVID. So good. Do you know there is, in 2016, there were 24 billion selfies uploaded just to Google. 24 billion. That's in 2016. I can only imagine that it's significantly more today. 24 billion is a whole lot. Maybe you have or have not heard of this, but there is such a thing, and I'm not exaggerating here. I do want you to look this up after the service. Selfie-itis or self-itis. This is an actual thing that's being studied. There's a group out of India that is studying this right now, and this is technically the overuse of selfie images uploaded to social media threads. You didn't even know that may have been a problem, but that actually is becoming something that's studied by social science. And believe it or not, the reason they're using, there's a group out of India that's doing this because India has the most Facebook users of any country in the world. And so, yeah, I know, who knew? So they're studying this out of India because they're uploading all these selfie images like crazy. In 2015, this may shock you, you may have missed this one, but in 2015, Kim Kardashian released a book of just selfie pictures. 125,000 people bought this book. Sold 125,000 copies at $60 a piece in 2015. Just images of herself that she took. What's happening? Are you with me? Selfie images, next slide, this is selfie images constantly being uploaded, and there's so much that social science is studying about this. What does this say about self-esteem? What does this say about self-worth? What does it say about self-focus? What does it say about the need to be in some way approved? What's going on at such an interesting social level? We're living through a time of tremendous change. Are you with me? I spent some time this last couple of weeks just focused on this statement that Paul makes in the book of Acts. Listen to what he says as the launch of the church is beginning, and he's spreading the gospel, and he's starting these churches all over the Mediterranean rim. He says, "My life means nothing to me. My only goal is to finish the race. I want to complete the work the Lord Jesus has given me." I just want to sit on this passage for a moment today. I just want to sit here with you and take a moment and think about what's being said here, maybe in a slightly deeper way than we normally do. I want you just to kind of like journey with me this morning through these words. And I do think the opening words are powerful. My life means nothing to me. How do you get to the point where your life means nothing to you? There's something grander at play, right? How do you get to that point where your perspective, your view of yourself and the world changes at such a deep level that you start to think, hey, my life has been transformed. It's taken on a new meaning, right? And there's something grander at play that I've tapped into that's bigger than me, that's bigger than just my group, that's bigger than just my plans, my initiative, my family, my friends. What is going on there? Let's park and lot that just for a moment. Let's put it on the shelf. And I want to say this as we get started. And it's going to feel like a U-turn. And it's going to feel like the two things don't match up. But I promise you by the end, we'll knit this together. I had somebody tell me that they thought that the teaching of Jesus, not himself, but the teaching of Jesus is self-centered. And at first, when you hear those words like, hey, Jesus is self-centered, you think to yourself, well, come on, that can't be, that can't be true, right? He's Jesus. This guy's awesome. You know, but then upon further discussion, as we worked through what he was saying, I thought, no, you're right. There's something going on here, right? Jesus and self-centered doesn't feel like it should go together, but unusually, and maybe a way you haven't thought about, at least I hadn't thought about till we had this discussion, it does. It really does. In fact, this is one of the things that makes Jesus so unique amongst all the descriptions of religious leaders who've ever been part of our history, part of world history. It's one of the things that defines him, that separates him out, that makes him so unique and stands out as compared to all other religious teachers and leaders. Think about this just for a moment. When you think about religious teachers and leaders, they're always saying this: don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm not that big a deal. Every religious leader you can think of, all the religious leaders of the world, they're self-effacing at some level, right? It's not about me. It's about the message, right? It's not about me. It's about this grander truth that I've tapped into. It's not about me, right? I mean, you can probably think of preachers who still talk like this. You can think of gurus and leaders who talk this way when it comes to religious thought and moral thought. But Jesus doesn't say that. Jesus doesn't say, it's not about me. He's saying, no, look at me. Look at me. That's kind of the way he starts a lot of his discussions. Next slide. Religious leaders are constantly saying things like, I'm pointing you to the truth. No, I'm pointing you to the truth. Listen to me, follow me. I have special access to the truth. To which Jesus says, I'm not pointing you. I am the truth. I am the truth. And you're like, this guy is really focused on himself. I am the truth. That's an interesting separation from him and the rest of the religious leaders of the world. Or how about this one? It doesn't matter what you think of me. And then Jesus comes along and says, what do you think of me? Think about how many conversations start with Jesus saying, what do you think of me? Matthew chapter 16, when he talks to his disciples, he literally says that phrase, who do you say that I am? He starts a lot of his conversations this way. He sits guys down and he says, hey, what do you think about me? I mean, think of, like, if you had a friend that started all their conversations with you that way, it'd be odd, right? What if, like, you go out to lunch afterwards, you sit down, you haven't seen each other in a while, you say a few things, and then your friend goes, enough about you. Let's talk about me, right? Let's focus on me. I think you need to think, like, have you thought about me? Have you thought about how great I am? Right? Potentially good. Like, have you really thought about it? Like, what do you think? And then when you're told what they think, I think it's bigger than that. And they go into a grander explanation of how good it is, how grand it is, how great it is. Jesus says phrases like this. Who do people say that? He's like, not just you. What have you heard? What have you heard about me? Because that's important. The conversation starts with, hey, what have you heard? Because this changes everything. What you think about me changes everything, right? Or how about this? Who do the crowds say? What does everybody else think? What do the crowds say, right? Who do they say that I am? It's as if Jesus is completely consumed with himself or the message of himself at some level. Or how about this? When he tells, this story at the end of the Sermon on the Mount about the coming judgment, the day of coming judgment. One of the things that he says to the people who are listening is, when you stand before me on that final day, you've done all these good things, but if you don't know me, and I never knew you, you'll be taken away. I think we all know where that goes. I mean, think about that. It's all about me. And if you don't know me, on the day of judgment, yikes. Or think about him sitting down with Nick and Nicodemus in chapter 3 of John. Nicodemus comes at night. He's too embarrassed to be seen with Jesus publicly. It seems like that's what's going on. They're sitting down. I imagine it around a campfire, right, of sorts. They're having this discussion about moral things, and it's as if Jesus in the moment goes, hey, enough about your thoughts. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about me. And he ends up saying that phrase. He ends up saying, whoever believes in me will not be condemned. I mean, Nicodemus had to be like, this guy is very focused on him, right? Whoever believes in me, not the message, not just like some abstract truth. I am the truth. Whoever believes in me is going to be saved, right? Will stand in the face of all condemnation, stand in the face of all judgment. Or how about the rich young ruler who comes to Jesus and says, what do I need to do to make sure that on that day I'm connected with the divine, the Father, the God of heaven and earth? And Jesus, think about his answer. Sell everything and come follow me. It's like, whoa. What friend do you have that talks like this? Right? What person do you know talks like this? Some of the statements are so intense that by the time we get to John chapter 6, he's saying things like, eat me, drink me. It's all about me. What? And some of the responses of the crowd, their responses are extreme, because if you really think about what it would be like to be around a person who talks this way, it seems like it would be a little off-putting at some level. At first, right, you'd be like, okay, this guy here is consumed with the spotlight on him, right? At first. What is it? What is it about Jesus, right? Why were people drawn to him, though? Because if you did this with your friends, if you hung out with your peers, and you never allowed them, right, any of the spotlight, if you were constantly drawing the spotlight back to you, trust me, the people in your circle of influence that you worked with, that you do life with, your friends, your family, you know what they'd say? They'd say, this guy's a narcissist. I mean, I know that's popular today, right? Because everybody's got, like, literally the entire world right now has had some access to social science and social discussions in some realm of mental health issues. So everybody is like, anybody that's selfish is a narcissist. And I get it, right? Like, but you, trust me, your friends would be like, this guy? Narcissist. I mean, he is self-centered. That's what everybody would say behind your back. They may not say it to your face, but they would say it behind your back. They would be like, this guy's constantly consumed with himself. So what is it about Jesus that draws people to him? Because if you did it, the world would go, whoa, wacko. But that's not what happens with Jesus. There's this natural affinity for him. He's drawn to him. And think about the groups that get drawn to him. Okay, if you're a part of the upper echelon, the elites, the religious elites, the political elites, whatever, there's a lot of narcissism amongst those groups, a lot. Granted, they've learned how to play the game and say the right political things and interact socially the right way, but truly it's all about them constantly a lot of times in those groups, and everybody kind of knows that. It's just part of the networking game people play. If you've ever been around the the group that controls things, the upper echelon, the political people, the money people, the banker people. And I'm not knocking anybody in the room that's in that group. I'm just saying, that I know that there's a lot of that goes on in that world, right? But let me tell you where there's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of that amongst the poor, the disenfranchised, the people of, think about it, the people of the streets, and then the time of Jesus, you've got tax collectors and sinners and prostitutes. It's very difficult to fool these people. They see pretense and they see that self-centeredness very quickly. They know they're on the outs already. They know they're not getting into the in crowd. And so they've just dropped the whole pretense idea that if they play the game, they'll get in. So they've just given up. And they identify self-centeredness, narcissistic thought very quickly. They're like, ugh. But this group, who would normally pick this up very quickly, who hears Jesus, they're drawn to him. It's unusual, right? Drawn to him in the droves. Are you with me? What is it? What is it about Jesus? Why this monotheistic Jewish culture believes in the divinity of Jesus? How were they so convinced? Not only were they many times on the outs religiously or politically, but they're also this monotheistic, very defined religious culture. And this guy shows up and he's constantly focused on himself and that he's divine and he's speaking in this way that's unbelievable in world history. And the Jews are like, yeah, there are people who are convinced, right? And if you think that's not that big a deal, I know people today who, if you really press them, they've grown up either in another culture, another religious culture, another spiritual background, and if you really press them, they are interested in Jesus. They're willing to have the conversation about Jesus. They're willing to have the discussion about Jesus, but the idea of placing their faith publicly in Jesus is a turnoff to them because they see it as cultural abandonment of what they've known. They're literally like, well, I couldn't do that because my family or my background or my culture or my people or whatever it is. It's not even about Jesus. It's about what they'd have to leave behind, at least in their minds, even though they technically don't. Jesus isn't into replacing culture. He's bigger than all the cultures. But in their minds, they're like, well, I'd have to abandon this, so I'm not going to do it. What would make Jews, this very defined culture, go, yeah, this guy's got something? I mean, it's bizarre. He's humbly self-centered in some weird way. And I don't know how to describe that. I worked on it this week. I was trying, man. I was like, what is going on with this? He's humbly self-centered. He himself is not self-centered in a broken way, a sinful way, but the message is self-centered. It's as if his message about himself is self-centered, and it's that way for a reason. But he's humble in some way, right? I mean, think about passages like this. From Luke chapter 9, foxes have dens and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. He doesn't come. He comes and rises from eternity past and eternity future, outside of time, an integral part of the Trinity, stands up from this throne in heaven, descends into the placenta of a teenage pregnant girl living in nowhere Middle East, and then does not come as a king. Is not living in a palace, doesn't use his awesome all-powerfulness, sets it aside to serve what he has made, his creation. It's this unbelievably humble look at this person. So he's not living in excess, he's not living in luxury, he's not seen as this consumer, he's seen as this giver, but at the same time, his message is constantly on him. Humbly self-centered in some way. This brings me to this idea. When coming to Jesus, here's the interesting thought, right? When you see Jesus in this light, you realize that it's so very divergent from us. That in fact, ourselves, us, me, you, this is so foreign to how we function that when it comes to turning to Jesus or having faith in Jesus, placing our hope in Jesus, following Jesus, that many times the things that motivate us towards Jesus are by their nature selfish, not towards him, but towards us. That our faith is first and foremost motivated in this very self-centered way. Jesus' entire message is focused on me, and our entire turning to him is focused on us. Like, hey, it's about me. And you're like, what do you mean? Tell me more. I'm going to give you 3 groups that I've had conversations with recently. There's more groups than this. But one of the groups is, I call them mystics, and I have a couple friends that, I don't want to define mystics. I think you know what I mean by mystics. They're the people that are constantly saying things like, they've found some special revelation. And if you could find the special revelation, then you would know the things they know, and it'd be special. Right? Generally kind of a mystical idea. But when you think about it, when you hear people that talk like this what you realize is you let them talk long enough, what they're talking about, are you ready for this, is not Jesus. They're talking about themselves. I mean, that's what's happening. You're listening to them and you're like, they mention his name a lot, but it's all about them. What they have now, what they've found, their empowerment, their enlightenment, and you are on the outs and they're on the in. And you're like, this feels weird, right? Because Jesus' message is on him. Turning to that message is about him. But when you hear someone talk that comes from this idea or this worldview, it's all about them and not about him, which is weird. Or how about this group? I call this the desperate. This is the Jesus will bail you out group. We call this jailhouse religion. You know what I'm saying? Preachers have spent a lot of time with people with jailhouse religion. I've visited a lot of people in jail. We don't need to name anybody here. But I've visited a lot of people in jail. I've visited a lot of people in the hospital. I've visited a lot of people in nursing homes. I've visited a lot of people in tough situations, right? That's part of the job as a minister. You end up in a lot of these environments where people are in moments of desperation in their life. Does that make sense? And there's this constant dialogue that takes place where when the pastor comes in and we're sitting down and there's this discussion, usually it centers around pray for me, pray with me that God will deliver me, right? And their feeling is, if God will deliver, then I will truly trust. And it's never good to invite me to those situations because I always have a really difficult time navigating those because that is so, when you think about it, think about what's really being said. If you, then I will. And at that moment, what you're really saying is, my God, or the thing that I want most, or the thing that I want to serve, or the thing that I desire most, is not Christ, but what Christ will do, or can do, or could do on my behalf in the moment. That's not really Jesus, is it? It's like a puppet God. It's like a God you control. It's like a wait a minute. Oh, let's get on it. Maybe you're the one that you value the most. It's crazy, right? Think about this. It's like, I was talking to the guys this week. We were having breakfast, and we were talking about that story. I was talking about that story about the thief on the cross. And one of those, you got Jesus and these thieves, and lack of better term, thieves, but they're there on the cross, and one of them says, if you're the Son of Man, get me out of this, right? If you're the guy, if you're the Messiah, get me out of this. And in that moment, what you realize is that he doesn't really believe, but he will take what could be offered. He will take what he really wants, which is deliverance. What he really wants is the answer to his desperation, right? And I know a lot of people like this. They ask for, and sometimes it seemingly looks like they even get, and then the second they get it, there's no real dedication or honor or service to this God who is the greatest thing in the entire world, the greatest thing in the entire universe. Everything points to him. There's not this sense of adoration or deep love or deep worship. There's just this sense of hey, that's what I wanted from this God. I will compartmentalize him into this box in my life, and every now and then I'll drag him out for his name or for his fame or for my sense of cathartic response emotionally in the moment, but I'm not really dedicating my life to this God because that's the thing I want the most, is my life the way I want it. Wild, right? Or how about this? The moral. This is the Jesus will make you disciplined. I know this sounds shocking, but I know people who have turned to God just because, literally, because their life was out of control and they needed some sort of governance to get through. Some sort of discipline, some sort of control, some sort of crutch, some sort of whatever. That's their thing. That's their thing. Like a drug, like a fix, like a education, like whatever it was. But these things are not truly what Christ is. It's as if they've turned to a lesser God and called it Christ. He's not really Christ. If Christ is who Christ says he is, he's worthy, beyond worthy of all of our affection and worship and honor and adoration. And to turn to him in these ways just seems so beneath us, beneath him at least, right? Okay, so I'm on my high horse, I know, but so what do we do? What truly needs to happen here? I would call it a Copernican shift, right? You remember that this Nicolaus Copernicus, up until 1540, think about that. The entire world thought the earth was at the center of the universe, which is not that surprising when you think about humanity and how selfish we really are, right? It's almost like a comedy show. Like the entire world, much of it based upon really bad biblical interpretation, right? Thought the whole universe revolved around us. And then this Catholic priest, scientist, comes along and goes, guys, we were wrong. Revolves around the sun. Our whole galaxy revolves around a sun. We're just a part in a grander deal. And a shift, they call it a Copernican shift, took place. A shift in worldview, a shift in humanity, a shift in thinking and in science. Everything changed in this moment. We went from this Ptolemaic, understanding of the universe to this new understanding. Boom, eyes were opened. Some people died because of it. They were literally murdered because of it. They were like, how dare you change the thinking? That has to happen. I think that has to happen in every believer at some level, right? So let me go slow here and let's lay this case out. I believe that, I don't know. This is my opinion at this point. I'm up here winging it at this point. It's my opinion. Are you ready? So take it with a grain of salt. I'm not sure anybody ever starts their journey in faith with the type of faith that we're talking about. A faith that's not self-centered, but truly focused on him completely. I mean, for many of us in the room, we will willingly admit, no, my first act of faith was, I don't want to go to hell. Like, get me out of this, what the preacher's saying could happen. I don't want that. Like, let me out. Like, get me a little help here, fire insurance, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if anybody ever truly in this kind of like altruistic, perfect fashion just has this sense of like pure faith and honor and adoration in the true one God of the universe. I don't know. Maybe there is somewhere. Maybe you were the one person. I don't know. But I think for the grand majority of people in this room, me included, this happens over time. Like a child, right? Like a child who honors their parents at some level because of the discipline and the potential negative outcomes. Over time, honor grows, right? Over time, true love becomes the defining nature. Over time, there is this eye-opening, scales falling off awareness of what we're truly doing in worship, who we're truly honoring, right? Who he truly is, seeing him for his real self, right? That happens. But it happens over time. Now, with that in mind, every now and then, I think this is what Paul and the writer of Hebrews and a lot of these New Testament writers are referring to, is that somewhere along the line, for many people, they started with a self-centered faith. There was something that they were drawn to Jesus, but there was this self-motivation that did it. It happens a lot. It's part of what it means to be a child of faith, and start off with like some blurry motives and all that kind of stuff. But they never got out of it. Like that was it for them. Right? Like, so you got all these New Testament writers that say things like, hey, you got to grow up, right? You can't just stay there. I mean, it's fine to first come to God with a sense of like desperation or mysticism or, crutch morality or whatever it is. But you can't stay there because that's not the vision. That's not who God really is. That's your infantile beginning, just getting started, just understanding access of God. That's not the God of the universe. That's not the God who moved heaven and earth. That's not the God who descended into mankind. And there's something grander than just your selfish motives in this. And you go, okay, how do we get there? Right? I mean, think about this. What seems like happened for Paul. I mean, look at this phrase one more time. My life means nothing. Nothing to me. Now, it seems like Paul was a very religious dude from a very early age. I mean, very religious, very God-fearing. I mean, he loved God from an early age. He loved God so much, like he did some crazy stuff, including condoning the deaths of other religious people. I mean, that's like Taliban stuff, it's like crazy stuff, right? He loved God, but it started off in this very, very like blurry motives thing. And it takes this journey and this vision and this connection with Christ till he opens his eyes to something grander where he goes, oh, okay, I realize this whole thing was never about me. In fact, I'm not that important. I know your mama told you were important. I'm here to break it to you. You're not. We're a part of something much grander than just ourselves. We spend so much time and so much energy and so much effort feeding our whatever, right? Our short-term pleasure motives, whatever they are, just the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then all of a sudden you get confronted with the actual God of the universe who goes, hey, guess what? This isn't all about you. This has all been about me. And until you get that it's about me, it'll never change the way you think about you. And so part of growing up, the New Testament writers go, you got to grow up. You can't just be drinking milk the whole time. You got to get the solid foods. We got to get you grown up and by that, I think what they mean is you move from these kind of like selfish, self-focused, God in a box moments to like, oh, wait a minute. What if it's all about him and less about me? What if the only thing that matters when everything gets put back in the box, so to speak, at the end was him and not me? Whoa. It's like bam. Boom. You say, okay, well, what do we do? Well, let me give you just one thing today to think about. One thing, okay? I think that you, whether you've been a Christian for 5 years, 25 years, 55 years, whatever it is, 5 months, I think that you should be ever aware that every moment of worship, and I don't just mean public worship, but I do mean worship, and I think public worship is a symbol, is a microcosm of the grander worship, and we can talk about that another day. But every moment of worship is an opportunity for those scales to come off and for you to see Christ in the way he presented himself, as he truly is. For you to say, hey, for you to go in going, hey, I know that the preacher just told me, and I think he might be right, that I tend to see Christ through my selfish motives. So help me in this moment to see you for you, because when I see you for you, it'll change the way I see me and change the way I do life. So help me see clearly who you truly are, to not be deceived, to not be blinded by my own selfish, childish motives. Are you with me? So every person in the room, I think part of growing up is meeting every moment of worship with a sense of like, hey, this is a chance to see him today. This is a chance to grow up in him today. This is a chance to let worry, anger, bitterness, frustration, unforgiveness, all of this stuff that blurs my thinking, and I've just sprinkled Jesus around in my life, all that to stop and for me to adore. Last thing. Most of us can't even, think about this. In fact, we'll practice it this morning. Most of us can't even pray a prayer without defaulting to Thanksgiving. Now, there's nothing wrong with Thanksgiving. I'm not saying there is. But most of us can't pray without Thanksgiving. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's beautiful. And we should be thankful for all the many blessings. But in the Psalms especially, what you see these Jewish songwriters and poets and preachers say, they start with a sense of adoration. And adoration is different than Thanksgiving. Adoration is not, I thank you, God, for what you've done. Because see, that, again, this is through the lens of what I've received. Even though there's nothing wrong with that. Adoration is, I pay homage and worship for who you truly are. If you did nothing, you're still the grandest thing in all the universe. High and lifted up, high and mighty. We're sitting with the guys this week, we were talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I love that, that line they're about to be thrown in, and they give this line, hey, God can save us. God can save us today. But if he doesn't, it doesn't matter. Because God's still the grandest thing in the whole world, in all the universe, everything that we've ever known, we will still serve him. If he does nothing, doesn't owe us anything, doesn't need to do anything, he doesn't need to prove himself, grandest thing. That's a different style of worship. That's a different deal, right? All right, so let's take a moment today. Let's just call it a practice moment. I just want to give you a chance to form some words that you would deem words of adoration. Just form some words. And try to do it without using the word thank you. Just form some words of like, you are almighty. You are high and lifted up. All power, all authority, all truth, everything resides in you. You are light. You are darkness. Nothing can be hidden from you. I want to see you that way. Those kind of words. I just want to give you a moment to think that through before we take communion today. And we're going to sing a little bit here. And we're going to use this last bit of opportunity to open our eyes to the God we're talking about. Take a moment and pray a prayer of adoration.
You are welcome in this place. Holy God of our faith, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome in this place. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Sweet Lord, come sustain us. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Of our faith, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome in this place. Holy God of our faith, you are welcome in this place. You are welcome in this place. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Sweet Lord, sustain. Get your communion out. On the night Jesus was crucified, he took bread, gave thanks, gave it to his disciples, said, "This is my body broken for you." And he took wine and said, "This is my blood. This is the new covenant in my blood. Take it, give thanks, see Jesus for who he truly is today. Run headlong into his arms, maybe in a way that's new. Take it, eat, take it, and drink. Join me in standing. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me, Lord. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me, Lord. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me, Lord. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me, Lord. You carry me on the wings of love. You carry me, yeah. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Come fill our hearts up. Come fill our hearts up with your presence. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Just say that out. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Come on. Sweet Lord, sustain us. One more time. Sweet Lord, sustain us. Goodbye. God bless. Love you. Mean it.